I'm struck by how many cutting-edge athletes really deny the possibility of death. I think it's almost like going into war. It helps if you are convinced you'll survive, to steel the nerve to go out and do crazy things.
For younger people, there is a sense of invincibility that they think, okay, I'm fine, nothing's going to happen. And it is a scary dilemma, especially what we've seen, especially in the last few years. I guess for me, I've been a part of the base jumping community as a photographer, not as a jumper, and that has been a hell of a thing to witness the last few years. Friends who are like, 3 people are left out of 70 people that I knew who got into the sport.
What I've learned over the years is that, there's things that can happen that we don't understand, and when they do, I've learned more to be accepting of those things. Last summer I was on a climb in British Columbia. A young woman was on the ridge in front of me. It was just really easy climbing, where it's a normal place you'd climb without a rope, and she just fell off the ridge. I watched her disappear. We never found her, and I don't know why that happened.
I think one thing that the adventure community, it does and it doesn't do, is talk about death openly. Because I guess what I've seen is, in the Western cultures, it feels like a taboo subject. It feels like a lot of people don't want to talk about it, and it is so damn fucking hard to see a friend who is hurting so bad that they even want to commit suicide. And I've had a few friends go through this process. And ultimately with grief, I feel like the best thing anyone could do is just listen and just be there for them.
In my experience, the really tough conversations are with the parents and loved ones who don't climb, of the climber who died. And again, in my experience, that's inconsolable. That's not something that a gathering of the tribe can ever assuage. My first climbing partner was killed when we were both 18 on the first Flatiron in Boulder. And we'd only been climbing 4 months. We didn't really know what we were doing. And I think that one of the reasons I kept climbing is that I couldn't admit to anybody that if I quit climbing, it was because I'd made a really stupid mistake taking up climbing in the beginning. If your parents who don't even understand what your son or daughter is doing out on those crazy weekends and months in the Great Ranges, it's all the more not only unfathomable, but a complete waste, a terrible tragedy that has no meaning.
I think it's part of our DNA to explore, and that there's risk involved in seeking the unknown. If we're unwilling to take risk, then nothing happens in sport, nothing happens in business, nothing really happens in anything. And I don't think it's a waste, because I think that's how we learn, I think that's how we get better.
I feel like from an outside perspective, it's easy to point the finger in the adventure industry because it seems it's easy for them to spot the dangers. And I find that people from an outside perspective, they just fail to relate to what we do. And sure, I considered death with any adventure because it could happen, but reality is it could happen to any of us any day, any time. Perhaps people who aren't involved in the adventure industry tend to live a lifestyle that's more complacent, and they think they have a guarantee that if I do everything safe, I'll live a long, happy life, and that's not a guarantee.
It's such a great thing, it's worth the risk. That's the fundamental equation. Rather than trying to convince ourselves that we can control it down to a tiny margin.
I think that for me, I really like to climb.
Me too.
I really love going to these places. It's painful for me to think about not being able to go there and experience those things, being in those landscapes and experience the emotions that I do when I'm there.
I hiked to Poncho House last month. which is a wonderful ruin in Utah that I thought I would never be able to hike to again. You know, it's the best thing that happened to me all year.
That's awesome.
It's only 3 miles in, but I'm so weak because of the cancer that I didn't think I could make it, and I barely made it. And it was exuberant and powerful.
Being out in nature is, I don't know, it fulfills me. I mean, I had this incredible experience a couple of years ago where I was freediving off the Azores, and this group of sperm whales decided to interact with us one day, and they came straight back at us, and for me, like within like a hand's reach, this huge sperm whale. Oh man, like I remember coming to the surface and I was just yelling and screaming. I couldn't form any words, and just my heart on my chest is feeling so full of just this pure joy. And God, I wish others could experience that.